Watch how I make this ladybug out of a pre-cut piece of crafting wood, a wire coat hanger, and a couple of these small sewing pins. Alright, before we get started, let me tell you about this pre-cut piece of crafting wood. I picked up a bag of 10 of these from Amazon, and I'm going to put the link where you can pick up some of these in the description of the video. So I like this one because there's a lot of different designs you can do with this. Today we're making the ladybug. In a previous video I made a mariachi, and in the coming videos I'm going to be doing a lot more designs with this particular cutout. So let's get started. We only have a few steps when we make the ladybug. The first one is determining how tall we want it to be, or should I say, where do we want to cut the body off. I don't necessarily want this whole cutout to be the ladybug's body. I want to cut it off right around here. One way I'm going to be able to draw this line pretty straight is to follow the grain on the wood. So I want the body to be pretty much, this will be the back and this will be the belly, and I want to cut it off right about here. So I'll take all this off, and all I'm going to do is just trace around it. And that's going to help me figure out what part I need to cut off. So not too bad. It's not perfect, but it's going to be enough to help me cut off what I need to cut off. So this is the part I'll take off. I'm going to try to take it to the bandsaw first and cut off the main piece here. And then whatever I don't get with the bandsaw, I'm going to take it over to the belt sander and clean it all up. So let's start that process. All right, this is going to be a little bit difficult of a task because I don't have much room to hold on to this. And I'm going to try to rotate this as much as I can along that pencil line. Because if I just try to go straight through, the bandsaw itself is going to try and pull itself over to one side. So let's try and make this thing work. Start on this side. Okay, so once I got through most of it, I was able to just take it and then go all the way through. So I just finished up with the bandsaw, and now I want to take it over to this belt sander here because this bottom part where the belly is going to be is still a little bit rough from that bandsaw. So let's start this up and we'll smooth this down. That seemed to have done the trick. It's nice and smooth. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take it over to a different sander, and I'm going to smooth these edges out a little bit more, and then I'm going to take some sandpaper and sand it all down by hand to get a nice smooth finish on everything here. So this is what we have so far. Now I'm going to use this belt sander to round off the edges. I've got two pieces of sandpaper here. 120 grit, which is pretty coarse, and 220 grit, which is a little bit more fine. So I'm going to start with the 120 grit sandpaper, get around the edges to make it smooth, and then I'll use the 220 grit sandpaper to smooth it out even more. This is what it looks like so far. I think it's got the body shape that I need. The next step is going to be determining where the legs are going to go on this ladybug. So now we're going to determine where the legs are going to go, and in this case I want to have a little bit of a black bottom, I guess. So let me show you what I mean here. So if we're looking at the side of the ladybug, I know my drawing probably isn't the best. This is going to be the head, and so I want to draw a line right about here. This is going to be like a black belly kind of, And then, you know, this will be the body. The head will be like this. And I'll draw some legs here. But the legs aren't going to be this high up. The legs are actually going to be right here in this black part. So one leg will come out here, another leg will come out here, and a third leg will come out over here. So there'll be 3 legs on each side, but it'll come out of this black belly part here. So that said, I'm going to draw a thin line across the whole ladybug, making sure that the space isn't going to be too thin, because remember, it's going to be a coat hanger that we use for the legs. So I'm going to make sure that my line is going to be thick enough for that. The head is going to be black anyway. So I'm just going to go across just so I know where I am here. I'm going to go all the way around, whoops, this ladybug here. And my line isn't perfectly straight, but I think I did a pretty decent job. So all of this is going to be black. So now I'm just going to point out where the leg is going to go. So I'm going to put the middle leg right there, the back leg here, and the front leg there. Looks about right. Just try and go across the center here. Let me see here. So it looks about even. One leg there. One leg about here. And one leg, I guess, right about here. All right. Okay, let me just see if it actually looks about right. That looks about even. Those middle legs look a little bit off, actually. I think I need to raise this one. That looks a little bit better. And the back legs, those look about right. Oops. Let me create my pilot holes. I'm just creating these pilot holes so that when I drill the hole, my drill bit goes straight into that hole and I can just push it up into the drill press. It keeps the drill bit from jumping around too. So I've got my coat hanger, which is what I'm going to use for the legs, and I've found a drill bit that is going to be the same thickness as the coat hanger. So what I'm going to do next is put this in the drill press and drill out these holes. I'm going to do my best to keep it in one direction. I don't want one to go, you know, straight up and down and the next to be at an angle. So mine are going to be at a very slight angle on each one, but I'm going to be sure to keep that same angle on every single one. While I've got the drill press ready to go, one thing I want to do also is determine where the antennas are going to go on this ladybug. So let's take a look at that real quick. By the way, I decided I'm going to use these little sewing pins for the antenna. They're just real short sewing pins here. Whoops. But I think that little ball on the end is going to make it look pretty cool. And it just so happens that of all of these sewing pins, most are yellow and white. But there's about 3 in there that are black, and those are the ones I'm going to use. These are the sewing pins I'm going to use. Here's a black one, and I'm just going to stick them right on top of the head. But I want to determine where I'm going to actually put these first. So I think for this ladybug, I'm going to put one. I'm trying to do this for the camera here. So there's one antenna. This other one here, think that's about right. And then the eyes are probably going to be painted on right about here on each side. Something like that. But let me drill the hole for these little antennae. Oops, now that I'm looking at it in this direction, it looks like I need to come up just a little bit on this one. Okay, that looks a little bit better to me. Let me just put my pilot holes in. This is where I'm going to drill the hole. Again, this pilot hole just makes it so much easier for me to actually drill a hole. And because these are very thin pins, whoops, these are very thin pins, I'm going to use the smallest drill bit I have, which I believe is 1/16 of an inch. So it's still going to be a little bit loose, but when I put the glue in, it'll tighten that right up. All right, so this is just a collet that I use, and the reason why I use the collet is because this chuck will not hold this 1/16 of an inch drill bit in it tightly at all. So I had to purchase this little collet here. It wasn't very expensive at all, honestly, just a couple bucks. So I use this collet to hold the 1/16 of an inch drill bit, and then I'm going to put it directly into the chuck, and that is going to do the trick. All right, let's drill out these antenna holes. Looks pretty good. All right, we've got all the holes drilled out. So the antenna, whoops, the antennas are going to look like this. And I might shorten those a little bit, but as of right now, I think that actually might work. Okay, but before I put those in, I want to do the legs. So I've got my wire hanger. You can see I've already cut a piece out for a different project. I'm going to cut these about, for each of the legs, I'm going to cut it about 1 inch long, maybe possibly a little bit longer. And then I'm going to shape it inside of the body, and then I'll cut it where it really needs to be. So maybe that inch might turn out to be, 7/8 of an inch or something like that. So let me cut 6 legs, and then we'll move on. All right, so this is what it looks like so far. It kind of looks like a spider actually, but I'm going to bend these down to the direction I want them. And then I'm going to actually take each one of these to the sander, kind of smooth those edges out there. And then we'll start painting. All right, so the way I'm going to shape the legs on this ladybug is I'm going to take a pair of these needle nose pliers here. I'm going to hold it on the very edge. Now this edge where I'm holding it, that's going to be part that actually sticks into the body. I've got a 3/4 inch dowel here that I'm just going to use it to pretty much bend this over with. So, oops, hold on. Takes a little bit of pressure there, but it gives it the bend that I want. Let me take care of all 6 of them real quickly. Now I'm going to put them back into the ladybug, and I'll cut them where they need to be. So now I have all 6 legs. I'm going to put them back into the ladybug, and then I'll cut the legs where I think they need to be, and then I'm going to sand them down, and then I think it'll be time to paint. This is what we have so far. These legs are way too long, and it's possible I might curve them a little bit more. Some of them look like they're not curved enough. So let me see here. Yeah. Just going to curve them a little bit more with these needle nose here. All right, we're making some progress. You can see some of those legs are longer than the others. So this is where I'm going to take my wire cutters and just cut them to size. I just cut the legs and they're not perfect, but one way to manipulate it so that it stands properly is really to just take the back legs and the front legs and move them back or forth until they actually stand still. So right now I've got all 6 legs touching the ground perfectly. So I'll glue those in, then we'll paint it all, we'll put the antennas in, and it'll be done. I'm going to use this sander to actually sand down the bottoms of each one of the legs. I know it's a wood sander, but I'm going to use it for these. One thing I'm going to do for sure is I'm going to keep track of which leg is where, because I've already spaced these out where I need them, and I don't want to, once I take them all out, if I mix them, this leg might not fit the same as it would here. It might not be the same length. So as I go through here, I'm going to take them out. I'm going to put them in order so that I know exactly which hole I pulled it out of. All right. And I'm also going to be careful as to which is going to be the bottom of the foot and which is going to be the top of the leg. So let me start sanding these down. When I go to sand it, I'm not going to get too crazy. I'm just going to take off the very rough edge. And now I'm just going to finish each leg off with a quick sand on the sandpaper. All right, so here's the Ladybug. I've kept the same order and direction of each of the legs. It's going to go just like that. Now I'm going to take my wood glue and I'm going to glue each one of these in here. Let me start with the top leg here. Okay, there they are. Now I'm just going to put it right here and straighten the legs out so that it sits evenly. You're going to have to kind of play around with this a little bit. Like I've had to take that middle leg of each one and kind of move them in and out. Same with the front legs. There we go. That's feeling pretty good. Oops. It's going to look something like that, right? But once we paint it, it's going to look pretty cute. All right, so I'm just trying to draw out the lines here. That feels pretty centered to me. So it'll be red, red with white dots. And then the face will be black. And we'll put some antenna here. These legs will be painted black as well as, whoops, as well as this little section down here. So I'm going to paint all of this black, red, red, and then I'll take a black paintbrush or even a felt marker and I'll draw a line straight down the back. So the legs are dry, and now I'm going to start with the paint. Okay, for this painting, I'm going to start down here, go all the way around, and then I'll take a thicker paintbrush and I'll get the legs and the face. I'm going to use the thicker brush. Looks pretty good so far. I've got this Tuscan red paint that I'm going to use for the back of the Ladybug. It's a pretty dark red and I think it's going to work. This is acrylic paint, and again, if you've seen any of my videos, you know that that's pretty much all I use is acrylic paint, and then after the paint job, I'll put on some gloss. All right, I'm going to start with the bottom here. Coming together pretty nicely. I'll let this layer dry, and then I'll paint the black line across and the white dots. What I need to do next is draw the line across the back, or paint the line across the back, and then I need to put spots on. For some reason I was thinking it was white spots, but I was actually looking to see how many spots the Ladybug has. And the American Ladybug has 3 on this side, 3 on this side, and 1 right in the middle. But I think I'm going to add a couple more than that. So anyway, they're black spots. They're not white spots. I don't know why I thought that. But I'm going to actually add white spots here for what are going to look like the eyes, and then we'll add the antennas. So let me attempt to make this line. Not as straight as I'd like, but I'm going to try and create the spots. So I'm going to use the bottom of this dowel here, and I'm just going to dip it in black and see how I do just by adding the spots like that. So all I'm going to do here is I'm just going to take this dowel, dip it in the black, and try and create those spots. Let me start with the bottom. Start with the back bottom. Hold on. A little bit better. It's turning out pretty good, actually. So that's looking really good. I think I'm done with the black, but what I will do is paint the antennas. Move that guy to the side. There's the second one. Now I'm going to actually add the white dots right here on the side. So same thing, I'm taking a dowel. This dowel is a little bit thinner than the one I used for the black dots. I'm going to have to clean it up a little bit though. All right, not bad. I'm going to let that dry. So now I'm just going to take the antenna and I'm going to dip it into my wood glue. Put them in. Okay, so for this part here where the wood glue is, after it dries, sometimes it'll dry up real nicely and you can't even tell it was there. I'll take a little piece of that off. It'll dry up real nicely. You can't even see it's there, but if I can, I'm going to take the black paint when it dries and I'll just paint over that glue. Once it's all done, I'm going to put some gloss on it and it will be ready to go. It's turning out really well. All right, this Ladybug is looking really good. Everything is dry on it. I painted the antenna stems one more time and everything is dry. So now it's time to gloss it. All right, here it is. I put the second layer of gloss on it. I think it turned out great. What do you think? Put a comment in the comments field. Tell me what you think about this one. Hey, listen, I really want to thank you for, spending your time to watch this whole video. I really do appreciate the time you took to watch it. Do me a favor, please subscribe to this video, like it, make a comment, and also let me know what you want to see in one of the future videos. I love making crafts, and hey, I'd love to hear what you want me to make, and we'll see if we can make it happen. There it is.